advocating for them to take care of these two dudes because they are special, special talents. I've just never seen a team built quite like what the Cincinnati Bengals are doing win a championship.
Meetings this week. Bengals Executive Vice President Canty Blackburn had the following to say about the negotiations with their defensive end, leader in sacks last year, Trey Hendrickson. I think he should be happy at certain rates that maybe he doesn't think he'd be happy at. I think some of it is on him to be happy at some point, and if he's not, that's what holds it up sometimes. So, it takes him to say yes to something, and also we have the respect in the world we have all the respect in the world for him. He's been a great player. We're happy to have him, and so maybe we'll find a way to get something to work. We're just going to see where it goes. To that, Trey Hendrickson went on the Pat McAfee show yesterday on ESPN and had this to say in response.
His communication has been poor over the last couple months. That's something that I hold in high regard. They have not communicated with my agent directly. It's been something that's been a little bit frustrating, but again, this is the business of it. Last year and the year before, I've been talking about long-term contract, guaranteed money, things like that. And it was discussed with me in a meeting, which I'm very fortunate to have had with my agent, that we would get something done this year. So that being said, last year, go out and play to the level you have, we'll get it done. That was communicated with me. So that basically, this year is going to get worked on. They also reiterated that at the Combine. So that just kind of clears the air on that. And moving forward, the happiness of my camp, they are more than welcome to call me. I've had my cell phone, same cell phone number since high school. Open line of communication is always open with me and my agents. So if they have anything they'd like to discuss, we've been nothing but willing to listen.
Okay, so obviously a lot to digest there. Clearly the number one thing is he hasn't changed his cell phone number since high school.
Seriously, I thought the same thing. There was some people who knew him in high school that were like, let me try this.
Yes, every single one of his high school friends would have assumed he's a mega millionaire. He's a superstar in the NFL. No way he has his number. Like, wait, he's got the same number? I'm going to text him. I need a loan. Your reactions to the non-cell phone parts of this with the Cincinnati Bengals. Same old Bengals, or are they different right now?
It sounds like the Bengals are trying to strong-arm him. And they're doing that by running out the clock because inevitably the options are going to dry up for Trey Hendrickson. Although they granted him permission for a trade, they haven't been able to consummate a deal, and the reports have been that the Cincinnati Bengals asking price is too high, especially when you consider that the acquiring team also has to give Trey a top-of-the-market contract. So that's the part that makes this a little more complicated, right? If you're Trey Hendrickson, the draft is the artificial deadline because presumably if Cincy is going to deal you, they want a piece that can help them this year given where they're at with their roster building, knowing that they put $70 million in two receivers. The Bengals are going for it. So they need a piece back from whatever team would be willing to trade for Trey Hendrickson that can help them this year. Mm-hmm. So once we get on the other side of the NFL draft, there aren't going to be a whole lot of teams that are going to be in the marketplace to give up a premium pick and pay Trey Hendrickson what he's looking for. They might not have the draft capital and or they might not have the cap space. So if you're Cincinnati, the offer that you have on the table right now might not look appeasing to Trey Hendrickson, especially with some of the things that he's hearing teams would be willing to pay him around the league if they traded for him. But once those other opportunities dry up, because teams no longer have the resources to trade for and pay him, then all of a sudden the offer that Cincy currently has on the table starts to look a lot better, especially considering that you might not get anything better the rest of 2025.
So they're comfortable playing the long game here, Cincinnati.
That's what it sounds like. It sounds like they're going to try to run out the shot clock on Trey Hendrickson, wait for all of those other opportunities to dry up, and then get back to the negotiating table and see if that gives them a little more leverage. I hate this, though, for the player because it's clear that Trey Hendrickson felt like they had an understanding in terms of his camp in the front office about when they would negotiate a market-level deal. Mm-hmm. Remember, in 2023, he signed a one-year contract extension that tacked on a year after 2024. So this year, I think he's on the hook for $18 million in cap hit this season. That's clearly below where the pass rusher market is. And we're talking about somebody that's had 35 sacks over the last 2 years, led the leagues in sacks in 2025. He deserves to be paid. Now, because of his age, he's not going to get what Myles Garrett gets, but he shouldn't be that far off from it. And that's the part that's got to be frustrating for him. And we also have to put this in its proper perspective. It's Trey Hendrickson on that Cincinnati Bengals defense and not a lot else. And he's still having that level of production. He is an absolute dog. And I can't understand why the Cincinnati Bengals are making this dude beg for their supper when all he's been is a good soldier since he came over from New Orleans.
Yeah, that's the piece of it that is a bit confusing to me too, because you just hit the nail on the head and where I was going to go with this. They might be playing the long game here, but this is a player who has not only earned this money with his performance, but if you remove his production from the weaker side of the ball in your organization, what's your ceiling look like if you don't have him? If you're content being patient and playing the long game, is not communicating directly with his agent, the route to go, is coming out publicly and saying, well, it's really up to him to be happy at the rate that we think he is going to come in at. It's his choice to be happy. If you want this person to ultimately come back to you at a price point that's more favorable to you, is not communicating with him over these past few months and not directly with his agent and making these comments publicly the right way to go about it in order for him to think that this is ultimately the best place for him to be?
It doesn't matter. None of it matters.
That the money in the end is
the Myles Garrett thing taught me such a lesson of how stupid I was relative to, wow, he wants out. He doesn't want to be there. He wants to choose a winner. We'll give you $40 million. I'm in. I mean,
you think the Bengals are going to do that here?
If they do,
it's the Bengals.
If they do,
Man,
he stays.
Stop.
It doesn't matter if they're. It doesn't matter what Katie Blackburn said. It doesn't matter if they're not talking to the agent. If they ultimately get to the number he wants, then none of it matters.
They're not going to get to that
Well,
number.
then it matters.
If you're ultimately going to get to that number, then what are you waiting for? Why are you playing the long game if you're ultimately going to get him to the number that you want? Why wouldn't you just get it done so you can go about your business?
Because
there ain't no more business after they pay him a top of the market deal.
But I think it's to your point. They are not going to get to that number, or they're hoping that they don't have to get to that number.
But what they're doing is they're going to check his resolve. There's no way that Trey Hendrickson can get the money that he's looking for and come out still looking like the good guy. He's going to have to stoop to some low tactics. I know Michelle Obama said when they go low, you go high. No, Trey, you need to go low.
Lower.
You need to go lower. This needs to be a situation, if it bleeds over into training camp, where you show up and you don't work out, you don't practice. It needs to be a situation where on the eve of the regular season, your back hurts, something's going on, the hammy's tight.
I can't go, Coach.
I can't go. Cash them checks and don't give them any services. Before it used to be the holdout. Now it seems like it's cost prohibitive with the fines, so it's the hold in. That's what Trey Hendrickson is going to have to execute. He's going to have to make this thing come to a head before the Cincinnati Bengals do something that he's happy with, either trading him to somebody that's willing to pay him what he's worth or actually giving him a market level deal to stay in Cincy. Something's going to have to happen, but until Trey Hendrickson is ready to be the villain in all of this, the Cincinnati Bengals aren't going to move off of their position. We're comfortable paying you at this rate, and we're not going to move.
not everybody's comfortable being the villain. We're gonna
and they would know better than anybody else
if he's comfortable being the villain.
Exactly.
Tháng trước ứng hết nửa tháng lương. Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại với kênh của mình. Ngày hôm nay mình sẽ tiếp tục hướng dẫn các bạn tố tượng. Tượng hôm nay của mình sẽ có tiêu đề là túi thực phẩm. Các bạn ơi, hôm nay tượng của mình là cải thảo. Bây giờ mình bắt đầu tô nhé. Không nhớ được cái gì hết, cái não nó bị kỳ. Cô đợi á. Em bảo với anh Kiên là em chuẩn bị đi thực tập rồi. Anh Kiên vẫn bảo là thế thì làm thế nào cho video nó đủ để dùng nhá. Chứ cũng có bảo là nó nhiều rồi, không lo đâu. Thực tập tận 3 tháng cơ mà, sợ gì. Vâng. Mọi người lên vào đợi. Tận 3 tháng liền sống được.